Aloy was released for PS4 and PS5 players at the beginning of patch 2.1, while PC players got her at the beginning of patch 2.2. So if you were a PlayStation player, then you may have missed out, but for PC players you can still log into the game right now and get her, as long as you're about adventure rank 20 to 25, I believe. Okay, so in this video I'm going to be going over Aloy, explaining how her abilities work, some very strong artifact sets for her, some very good weapons to use, and which characters she would work best with. So let's get into it. So let's start off with the elemental skill. Aloy's elemental skill can be quite overwhelming to understand, but the general gist of it is that you throw out a freeze bomb that deals a hefty amount of cryo damage. After it explodes, it will split into 6 chill water bomblets, which explode after either a short delay or on contact with an enemy. That is the basic part of her elemental skill. Where it gets a bit more interesting is that when either the freeze bomb or chill water bomblet hit an opponent, their attack is reduced by a certain percent, but more importantly, Aloy will gain 1 coil stack. Each coil stack increases Aloy's normal attack damage, but also when Aloy receives 4 coil stacks, she will enter Rushing Ice state, giving her normal attacks the cryo element and further boosting her normal attack damage. Bear in mind this has a 30-second internal cooldown. This is the very interesting part of her kit, but that seems like it would be a hassle because when the chill water bomblets spawn, they are quite spread out and can be a pain to get them to hit enemies and get more coil stacks. And that is where other characters come into play, Animo specifically. Animo abilities that gather enemies can also gather the chill water bomblets, but sadly not every Animo character works. The only ones that work are Sucrose's elemental skill, which works very well. Sadly though, her burst doesn't gather the bomblets. Kazuha's elemental skill does an amazing job at gathering them, and Jean's elemental skill. This gathers them at the tip of the weapon, and I feel could create some really fun and interesting gameplay. Sadly though, Venti and Sucrose's elemental burst doesn't work at gathering the bomblets, but at least Sucrose's skill does, so this type of gameplay is accessible to everyone. Using this method of having an anime character gather the bomblets is by far the most effective way of consistently giving Aloy 4 coil stacks, aka Rushing Ice. Moving on to elemental burst, Aloy throws a power cell filled with cryo in front of her and detonates it with a skillful shot, dealing cryo damage in an area in front of her. This is another one-hit burst, which just does a massive hit of cryo damage, which can be strong if you cause a melt reaction. But because cryo would be the element triggering the reaction, the multiplier would only be 1.5x instead of 2x, as if pyro was triggering it. The radius of her burst is the same size as Venti's burst, but doesn't go as far, so these two bursts will naturally work together. So if you're really hell-spent on using Aloy as a elemental reaction, elemental burst reactor, having Venti as your Animo debuffer / pyro spreader would work very well. In terms of talents, Aloy's first passive talent, Combat Override, gives her a 16% increased attack when Aloy receives a coil stack, which is overall pretty good, increasing your attack overall when you use her elemental skill. In her second passive, Strong Strike, after entering Rushing Ice state, 3.5% cryo damage bonus per second up to a total of 35%, i.e. 10 seconds to achieve the full buff, but the duration of RIS is 10 seconds, so 35% for any amount of damage is a distant wish. But her most important talent is what we were hoping Sayu's was, and that is animals that produce foul meat or chilled meat are no longer startled when you approach them with Aloy in the party. This passive is the only reason to use her, and you can't change my mind. Moving on though, her best weapons for 5 stars are, as per usual, would be the Thundering Pulse, which is a crit damage weapon with a bunch of damage boosting, and it's too strong to not have as her best in slot for pure damage throughput. Polar Star, it's pretty much the Thundering Pulse, but just crit rate instead of crit damage. Probably just as strong, maybe just a bit weaker because it's crit rate, but nothing else really to say. And Skyward Harp, again, the third one, for its boost in both crit rate and crit damage, but nothing phenomenal in both of them. Her best 4-star weapons are also mainly the popular ones like Viridescent Hunt, but that is from the Battle Pass, so I'm not really going to recommend it because it's not free to play. The Hamayumi can work if you're using her Rushing Ice state as the main DPS instead of her elemental burst. Ali Hunt can be good if you use her skill and burst as a battery, so not having her on field for more than 4 to 5 seconds at a time. Her flagship weapon, the Predator Bow, can work, but I don't believe it's optimal, and I also can't test this as I don't have her on PS, which is the only way to get her Predator Bow, is to have logged in 2.1 on the PlayStation. And the final weapon that I'm going to recommend is the Middennacht's Waltz. It can be good if you want to go for a freeze bomb / chill water bomblet build. Taking a look at her artifacts, she can have many different builds, and that is due to her having a rather dynamic playstyle, being able to be a battery type character, a main DPS, a normal attack type DPS, an elemental burst reactor. She can be many different things, so she's got many different sets. If you want to do massive elemental reactions with her burst, then 2-set Noblesse Obliged with 2-set Blizzard Strayer will do you just fine, but either of these sets can be interchanged with 2-set Wanderer's Trope. If you're looking for massive freeze bomb damage and satisfying chill water bomblet damage, then 2-set Blizzard Strayer and 2-set Gladiators or Shimenawas can do that, but 4-set Blizzard Strayer can also do that if you have a method of freezing enemies and also need the crit rate boost. And finally, if normal attacks are dealing way too much damage is your passion in life, then it would be the same as the freeze bomb set, where you would have 2-set Blizzard Strayer with 2-set Gladiators and Shimenawas, or you could have again 4-set Blizzard Strayer with a Hydra applicator like Xingqiu while utilizing Rushing Ice State. And that, my friends, is Aloy. Here are just some highlights of what she can do.
Time for takeoff. This is a new one.
Another test. That tingle?
The hunt is on.
Light flame! Picked the wrong test.
This video has taken me a while, mainly because farming Spectres is rather demoralizing, and my Aloy still isn't as strong as I would like her to be, but with me building my Rider Shogun, a lot of my talent materials are going into her, and so having 2 different characters for a boss that has only recently come out, I don't have a stock of materials. But I would rather get this video out showing you guys how to build her, even if it's to a basic level, to a moderate, mediocre level. I'd rather get this video out and help you guys as much as I can, rather than put out later where the information is widespread knowledge. So I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, hit that like button and also consider subscribing down to the channel. It would mean the world to me if you guys subscribe. I want to hit 400 subscribers this year, and thank you all for subscribing. Don't forget to ring the bell also to stay notified of when I upload. Have an amazing day, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.